don't need much of an introduction.
Oh, that changes everything.
Congressman John Katko, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. All the events that you have with us, and your office and you yourself are always so accessible to MACME and our members. So Congressman John Katko represents the 24th Congressional District, as you know, in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was first elected to Congress in 2014 and then re-elected for a fourth term in November 2020. The 24th District includes Onondaga, Cayuga, Wayne counties in the western portion of Oswego County, where we are today. In Congress, Congressman Katko serves as ranking member of the House Committee on Homeland Security and as a member on the House Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure. Before joining Congress, he served as a federal prosecutor. Thanks again for being here. I know you have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to hand it over to you right now.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for listening out there. I appreciate it. I see some friends out there, the names I see. And Sue Tormey, hope you stay awake through this. That's good to see you. I love coming up to Novelis because it's a great story about the success it's had and the necessity breeding success here. That being better fuel standards for vehicles has allowed this company to really flourish. And I've been around how many times. And I'm always happy to come here and see a great leadership and a great teamwork you guys all have here. And the very tough security you have here. I had to leave my soda outside. So, I'm also happy to report that we're now selling their aluminum to Chevy or GM, and I just got a new Chevy pickup truck that has Novelis aluminum in it, so I'm very, very happy about that as well. I just want to touch on a few things, but I'm really open to talk about anything you all want to talk about. This is your time, and I'm just making myself available. But there's a couple of things that I'm sure they're of interest to all of you, but not exclusive. And we talked about one of them that wasn't on my list, which I'm going to talk about as well. And I'll talk about that first, chip manufacturing. Chip manufacturing is turning out to be one of those things where we've got to do a better job as a country of looking around the corner a little bit. I think we all woke up one day and realized, oh my God, there's a chip shortage. What are we doing about it? And why does that bother someone that makes aluminum? Well, because they provide component materials for cars, which are loaded with computer chips. And there's a shortage of them, and the vehicles are slow moving. I went into a Lincoln dealership a couple weeks ago, and there were no cars on the lot in Syracuse, and they said it's because of chip manufacturing. And if you want to think about it from a global perspective, we have got to do a better job with our supply chain, and that means we can't have the country of Taiwan having 80% of the high-end chip manufacturing capacity in the world. We just can't, because if China decides to go into Taiwan, which we could wake up any day and find that out, all of a sudden China's got control of that entire market, and they've also got control of the entire world's economy. And we can't have that. So with that, we passed something out of the Senate that I believe it's $54 billion to help jumpstart high-speed chip manufacturing here in upstate, and not just upstate New York, all over the country. And we have a certain senator that's up for re-election next year who's behind this, and sensing he might have a tough election, then he might bring some goodies back home, and chip manufacturing may be one of them. And we've got a proposed plan for the northern part of Onondaga County, which would be superb, and we'd be excited to have that. So that's one thing, the computer chip and infrastructure. I helped negotiate an infrastructure bill. I actually wrote it with a couple of my colleagues in the Problem Solvers Caucus. If you don't know what that is, it's an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, 29 on each side, and we provided the framework for what infrastructure looked like, and all it is for us is physical infrastructure. I don't think there's any such thing as Medicaid infrastructure or other like social security infrastructure. It's infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, grid, broadband, all those things that we need. And we presented to some governors and senators and members of Congress. It really got caught on fire. The Senate ran with it. We were able to put numbers on it, amounts for each bucket, and then they paid for it. It's largely, almost all of it's paid for already with proposals. The president loved it until a couple of other leaders told him not to love it. Now he's back to loving it again, I think. So we'll find out in the next couple of weeks where we're at with that. I'm happy to talk more about that with more detail. Cybersecurity. Unless you live under a rock, you know that's a big issue right now. We've had 4 or 5 major cyber attacks in the last few months. The Colonial Pipeline attack shut down fuel distribution along the eastern seaboard. We had an attack on beef industry. We had an attack of this thing called Casilla, which is a software that went to thousands of different companies. And there's a couple of common threads. Number one is they all emanated from Russia, but they're not the only actor because China's been involved in some very serious attacks as well. They are increasing, the ransomware attacks are increasing in the size and in cost. The pipeline was $5 million, followed by the beef industry attack, 11 million, and the Casilla attack was 70 million. That's all in the last few months. I dearly hope that the president is taking some offensive moves to send a message that we can't tolerate this. And on Homeland Security, cybersecurity is a big thing for us, so I can talk to him all about that if you'd like to get into the weeds a little bit. The last thing is workforce. I'm happy to report that the government subsidies are running out at the end of September, which I know we all need. We need to get people to go back to work. I'm very concerned that a lot of these people are going to figure out that it's like a giant game of musical chairs. There's going to be too many people and not enough chairs, not enough jobs come September because people are making do with less and they're paying them more. You can't pay everybody more coming back into the workforce. So I'm concerned about that, but I'm also concerned how short-sighted people are for just wanting to take the $30 extra a week instead of going to work. So we needed to do it during the pandemic. It's long past time. We got to stop it, and hoping we're going to stop it now. I've also done some things I'm very strong support, and I think Novelis is too with the PTEC program. PTEC is a great program, and we're very supportive of it. I try to use that model and talk about it as a nationwide application. And I'm also I've supported expanding investments in career and technical education. I think it's very important. And then the manufacturing extension partnerships, those are very big. And I introduced what's called the Jobs Act to expand Pell Grants so we could use them for grant eligibility to cover short-term training programs so people can get more experience in the trades and things. That's really important. Bottom line is it's a big issue, and going forward it's going to be a bigger issue unless we think differently, especially in cyber. Cyber, just for an example, they have a 1 million person shortage in cybersecurity right now. And if your kids don't know what to do, tell them to cybersecurity, and they'll be like free agents. We can write their own ticket. But I want to come back to where I started and thank Novelis for hosting this, but also thanking them for being such a good corporate citizen. Hey, you guys are a big reason that Oswego is doing much better than it was, and we appreciate that. You guys are great corporate partners here, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much for that. And with that, I'll shut up and maybe let Randy say a few words. He just came in, so go ahead, Randy.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Novelis, for having us here. It's great to be back in your facility, and you do a fantastic job here. Thanks for all of our members who joined us remotely. It's so nice to be transitioning back to hybrid and doing things in person with people, so we're pretty excited about that. You get a chance to spend a lot of time with John. Actually, the last couple of weeks, he's had several different roundtables specific to the key issues you mentioned. Infrastructure, which is critical, our members, and all of you know that. Absolutely critical. Physical infrastructure, time to help energize the economy, and of course, we've talked a lot about cybersecurity. I think it's the number one, both national security and economic security issue today. Intellectual property is being stolen, our personal information is being stolen. So, John, I know you're leading both areas in Congress. What I also like about your approach is you get people to work together. I mean, it's a contentious environment. People spend a whole lot of time pointing fingers and quite frankly, lobbing, I would call insults at times. You're working on trying to get solutions. And I think that's absolutely critical as we get our economy geared back up and as we get moving again. So I can't thank you enough for hosting us. And John, as always, do a great job working on our members' issues and actually spending time with them. Which I know you've said to me, like, when can we start visiting more and more, right? Because we want to go visit and be with people. That's one of the things that we want to do. So, yeah, thanks for doing it. Thanks, Novelis, the team here, for having us.
Thanks, Randy. Randy, you want to say anything?
Yeah, for me, those on the line don't know me. Jeff Cruz, plant manager here in Novelis.
And he's not from Oswego, right?
I'm not from Oswego. I'm not from the north. I'm actually from central Kentucky. So, but again, great for you guys to be here. I could not thank you guys so much. It is great to have in-person visitors again. We've all been waiting for that. And Congressman, it's a pleasure hosting you guys, and I'd say let's open it up for the roundtable.
Sure.
Thank you, Jeff. We've had a lot of questions and some were pre-submitted. I know you just spoke about cybersecurity, and we had a question about the roundtable. I know you want to increase funding for the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. What are your ongoing efforts to get this done?
Yeah, so we had a roundtable last week. I was shocked at how many people came. The room was packed, and 45, 50 people there from government agencies across the board, but also from the private sector. And if you don't understand the connection between the two, well, I just don't know what to say. There's a cyber attack recently in Florida where a lone wolf broke into a computer system and a water system. They were on Windows 7, the operating system, right? Not most secure. And they were able to tweak the chlorine content in the water that was being added to the water. And if that water had gotten out, it would have killed everybody who drank it. And they were able to catch it at the last second. So your physical infrastructure is at risk. Your cyber infrastructure, your financial infrastructure, your privacy and data, your trade secrets, everything could be at risk. And we just saw, I detailed some of the attacks for you, and they're quite serious. So in 2018, we stood up what's called the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA for short, CISA. And it's one of the agencies within Homeland Security. And it has really been at the tip of the spear, and it's growing exponentially, and it's got a lot of good things it's doing. We are going to grow it from an appropriation standpoint to get it to where it needs to be. But right now, if Novelis hadn't interacted with them before, I don't know if you do or not, is all you got to do is contact someone at CISA. They provide a ton of free help to help you look at your systems, make sure your systems are okay. Whether you're a big company like Novelis or a small mom and pop shop, they will help you. They have best practices. They have they know where all the trends are, what all the most recent attacks were about, and what they were about, and how they happened, and they can help you look at your systems and tell you where your vulnerabilities are. So why is that important? Well, you don't want to get attacked. But I also said this last time, I'm going to say it again. Kind of like car manufacturing, when you manufacture a car, you have to have state-of-the-art technology. And if there's a plaintiff's case against you and you have state-of-the-art technology, chances are you can be okay. If you're not using state-of-the-art technology with cybersecurity, it's a matter of time before people start suing companies that get hacked for not having that state-of-the-art technology. And there's no excuse for it now. There's a lot of companies out there that can help you. CISA is a great source for you. And you've got to start, people got to start thinking about hardening their cybersecurity stuff before they get attacked, and not just hoping that they don't get attacked, because chances are at some point they're all going to. Since I've been in Congress, I've had my identity stolen by a hack into our congressional records. And somebody opened up a couple of accounts in Seattle, and I've never even been there. So that's a problem. So I can't tell you enough to take this serious, whether you're a school, whether you're a business, whether you're a government entity, or whether you're an individual. Cybersecurity is extraordinarily important. Even tedious little things like two-step authentication before you get into the system, all of those things make a very big difference. And I ask you to rely on CISA, and we can give you the information. And I think you guys have it. Randy has it. And Randy can disseminate it if he hasn't already to all of you. I highly encourage you to think of your systems, keeping them safe, just like you would think of the roof over your buildings that keeps the water out, keeps the storms out. Think of it that way and act accordingly. So.
Right.
But you can ask me anything. I don't care. Get me on topic or not. I really don't care.
Well, back to infrastructure. So MACME has been working with the National Association of Manufacturers on various issues, but especially infrastructure. So we have Todd Shelton, Director of Regional Public Affairs, on the line, and he has a question for you.
Sure.
Todd, if you could just unmute yourself, I think, and ask it. There he is.
Sure. Again, my name is Todd Shelton. I'm Director of Field Advocacy for the National Association of Manufacturers. Congressman, it's good to see you again, and thanks again for all your work that you do for manufacturers. In regards to infrastructure, knowing what we know now, can you kind of give your thoughts on the time frame and how you see things starting to play out here for like the next couple weeks or couple months?
Yeah, the next couple of weeks are critical. we'll know in the next couple of weeks where we're at. The bill that I helped formulate, we knew it had to come from the Senate. It's over in the Senate. It's got the dollar amounts on it. It's got, bipartisan support. That's one. Then there's also this gigantic monstrosity that's the administration's kitchen sink bill, if you will. And that bill is multiple $trillion and has half the infrastructure, physical infrastructure funding that our bill does. That's a lot less expensive. So the president's multi-trillion-dollar bill is 25% fiscal infrastructure. Our bill is 100% fiscal infrastructure. And it's right around, if you go for 5 years, it's just under $1 trillion. If you go for 8 years, it's just over $1 trillion. And believe it or not, most of it's paid for, if not all of it. And a lot of it's with money saving that hasn't been used from the CARES Act and everything else. So we have obviously the highway, the gas tax, and those types of things we have in there. So they're trying to take the bill, the bipartisan bill, and tie it to this profligate spending bill somehow, some way. So procedurally, I'm not sure how it's gonna work. I do know it's gonna come out of the Senate first, and then it will come to the House. Whether they're gonna be able to decouple it or not, the two bills, if they put them together, are we gonna be able to break them apart when they get over to us? I don't know yet. That remains to be seen. I do think if it comes over to us and they're separate bills, I think the infrastructure bill is gonna pass. I really do. If they put it all together and make it like a package deal, it's not going to. Especially since there's dramatic tax increases in their package, which would be ruinous for manufacturing businesses. They're talking about going back up to 28%, and I don't know if that's in their ultimate package, but that's what they were talking about. So there's a lot of moving parts, but you'll have a lot more answers by the beginning of August, is my opinion.
Great, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Pray.
Well, speaking of infrastructure, I-81, you want to comment on that? We expect the draft.
Yeah, here's where we're at with Interstate 81. The draft environmental impact statement will be formally released very soon. And it's gonna call for getting rid of the viaduct, make it 4181, and just dropping it into a boulevard coming into DC, or coming into Syracuse. Make it a community grid. There's a last ditch Hail Mary attempt, which I think is probably too late, but they're gonna try it, which would basically have the grid as planned and as thought about, but without having to make 4181 and without having to have all the interchanges opened up downtown and all these other things, and not having to improve all the surface streets, because you could have an elevated highway going through the city where the viaduct is now. It would be seven times higher than the current viaduct. If you had 1.25 mile suspension bridge, so the through traffic go right through and be high enough off, they wouldn't, air pollution problems would be alleviated quite a bit, and you still open up things underneath. I mean, an iconic bridge. The kicker and the selling point, supposedly, is you could save so much money that they could take a lot of the money that they were gonna save and pour it into the areas that were screwed in when the highway was initially built back in the 60s and 50s, and help revitalize the south side of Syracuse. Sounds great. It almost sounds too good to be true in a way, but we'll see. The interesting thing is, people down in that neck of the woods who, in that area most affected, I even thought they just wanted the grid. Well, it turns out all of a sudden there's this groundswell starting that want to have this alternative considered. We'll find out. Stay tuned. We'll see. My job is to make sure the money gets delivered, and we will get the money delivered for the highway project. I'm certain of that. The state's already got their side set. So when the draft environmental impact statement is formally given to from the Department of Transportation, New York State, to the Federal Highway Administration, starts a 60-day comment period. It was 45, and now it's gonna be 60. And anybody who has any concerns on any level has got to make themselves heard during that 60-day period. Because the Federal Highway Administration takes those concerns and comments and says, if they deem them material enough, they have to go back to the state and say, you've got to fix this before we can give you an approval of this project. And my sense is that the skids are already greased, that they're gonna make this the grid, but it's not a done deal. If they could pull off the miracle and get like this, they call it the Sky Bridge. So in other words, the Sky Bridge plus grid. And then they'd have a shot. If not, we're gonna have the grid, and, either way, I think the decision will be made pretty soon. So.
Okay. Before I open it up to folks on the line, does anybody else here have any more comments? Jeff, Randy? You want to talk about?
No, we're good.
Okay, so you just can submit your question via the chat. We did have one, it was about the infrastructure bill. We also have Martha Ponji, you know her, our Director of Apprenticeships. She did want to talk to you about workforce development. So while folks are submitting their question via the chat function, Martha, if you want to ask that, go right ahead.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Congressman, for being with us today. We really appreciate that you're out and amongst all of us sharing in today's activities. So,
Yeah, I'm so
my
sick of
question,
Zooms, I can't even tell you.
us too. I have to tell you, us too. So today, the July 21 Empire State Manufacturing Survey was released, and it's amazing news. The Business Conditions Index in New York State is up over 26 points. And, it goes on to say that companies are extremely optimistic that the trend will continue over the next 6 months. But my question is, as their confidence in the continued growth and expansion of manufacturing is going on, they are equally concerned about the lack of workers. Both skilled workers, which has been a problem for the last 5 years, but now entry-level workers. Do you anticipate that the federal government will start to put some resources in place that will support the rapid and very quick job training, upskilling of both the COVID displaced workers, as well as those who took the time during COVID to say, I need to make an industry sector job change?
Yeah, I wish I could wave a wand and tell you everything's gonna be great, but I do think it's gonna be very different at the end of September, I really do. I think that, there's gonna be a flood of people looking for jobs. And don't forget, not only does the $300 then run out, their unemployment benefits run out, right? So it's not just the bonus. It's like, that's it, it's the end of the line. So then they're gonna have to start, so in other words, probably even before then, people are gonna have to start thinking about what they're gonna do to make ends meet. And that's a good time to get everybody hired. That's good news. You gotta think about Amazon's in here, and Amazon's got recruiting people, and you're gonna be competing against them. That's not necessarily a bad thing, that's a good thing when we have competition for labor, but this unnatural problem that's been created because of the $300 a week extra pay is gonna be alleviated. As far as job training goes, my officer, Tom Haig, he's constantly mining the grant programs that are available for local businesses to get job training. We're constantly trying to find job training money for people when they look for grants. That's one avenue. I know in a lot of our legislation, including the infrastructure, we take into account job training issues. That's gonna be something a little more long-term, That's why I think that, the P-TECH is really important, and I'd love to hear from you all how P-TECH is going. Randy, you know more about that, right? And some of the other things that are going on locally. I know anecdotally that there's things going on with some of the CARES Act money in the city for job training, and that's gonna be important, but it's gonna be kind of an all hands on deck, and it's a multi-pronged approach, and I think that, what we can get out of the grants, what we're getting with the stimulus money, what the private sector is doing, like MACNY and the Novelis and all of you out there with P-TECH, those are things that are gonna really make a difference, I think. So if you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's no silver bullet here. It's all hands on deck. And I know companies like yours are investing time and effort, into making sure that you're connected. But we need to convince young people, and you and I've talked about that these are great jobs. Great jobs. You start right out of high school, many of them you can, with some additional training. You're willing to provide lots of it. So I'm convinced that we can solve this problem. And if we do, by the way, we'll be ahead of the rest of the country, because everyone in the country is having similar challenges with getting people.
Yeah.
So we're in growth mode. That's fantastic, but we're gonna have to find more.
And one of the things we gotta do though, and I talk about this all the time with P-TECH, we gotta destigmatize the trades, we gotta destigmatize. We also gotta recognize not every single child is college material, and that's fine. And so a lot of them just don't wanna go to college. I've got 3 boys, right? One of them's got a master's degree, he's a lieutenant in the military, and he's 25 years old, no problem.
Yeah.
The other one is gonna finish up school, and he had fun in college like I did. The third one he went to college for 1 semester and hated it. So, but he's the one who feels like he's kind of ostracized a bit for not going to college. And if you really drill down on it, take a look at what counselors talked about in high school. There's so much pressure to push a kid to go to college because that's how the schools get rated. Not everybody's made for college, right? We've got to recognize that and embrace that. And listen, vast majority of kids should go to school, should go to college. But we should make it so it's not bad if they don't. And that's why P-TECH is such a great program. That's why I've always championed P-TECH, because it makes people feel okay about the fact they may not want to go. I can't imagine the stress level that would have been reduced in my youngest son. If in ninth grade they said, man, here's P-TECH, here's something else you could do. You don't have to go to college. I know you hate school, just get to high school. I mean, what help you? We need to get more of that, and that's got to be more organic. But we're doing that, but they're like what they're doing at the STEAM school they're trying to develop downtown, things like that, and so technical schools. I mean, it's important getting Pell Grants for people to get training. But my God, I just talked to electricians. It's a wonderful career. They have 78 openings right now just for one of the locals. I think local 43. 78. Those are lucrative jobs. So we've got to do more. To get people, we got to do a better job of letting people kind of figure out what they want to do instead of telling them what they should do. Everybody always asks a high school kid, where are you going to college? Well, not everybody's going to go to college, and that's okay. Not everyone wants to go, not everyone's made to go. And by the way, check those schools with really high rates of kids going to college and find out in 3 years how many of those kids are still in college. Nowhere near as high a rate. So we got to recognize that. And the world is littered with kids who went to school, didn't like it, dropped out on electricians, carpenters, whatever, and are happy. So
They don't have school loans.
What's that?
They don't have school loans.
Right, they don't have school loans, right. So,
We do have another question coming in. I know we're getting to the end of this. How do we get dedicated funding for the P-TECH program?
Randy can help with that, right?
Well, it's really, the P-TECH program is referring at the state level. So, though there are federal, like you said, a lot of focus at the federal level, but we need continuous funding. The challenge is they don't fund, for example, they don't fund ninth graders for CTE, career and technical education. So not encouraging high schools by funding at a substantial level for high school. Let's be honest, young people need to make this decision starting in middle school. Like, it's okay. And by the way, you still need math, you still need science. Those things are all you're going to need those whether you go to college or not on your pathway. So we think, given the environment, there's an opportunity to get more funding specifically for career and technical education. Yeah, P-TECH is a great program, but there needs to be other programs as well. So it's more broad-based. So more students can choose that pathway. And I think people are realizing they can get great jobs and they don't need the traditional college approach. I think you're right. Expanding people's horizons, John, is the opportunity here. There are lots of great choices here, not just one. And I think the challenge with schools, of course, is we work with schools all the time, literally dozens of schools. Is, do the guidance counselors even know that jobs like yours exist? Would they even recommend, and they should, given both the pay, the stability, and the opportunity, do they even recommend them? So getting the guidance counselors. So we actually spent an entire month focused on manufacturing, have the governor declare it manufacturing month for October. We actually started before the rest of the country did it, having manufacturing day. So we're all in on trying to figure this out, but it's going to need a lot of our help.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, the industries contribute to the program too, right?
They do.
Yes.
Time and effort.
Time and effort, that's a big one, and I think Randy, you said something really important. You gotta get involved early. You gotta really look ahead and see what your needs are, and I think Novelis, the team here has done a great job investing, looking ahead and seeing what we need, and then investing our time into coaching and mentoring those kids.
We currently have 30 mentors.
That's
They do a
fantastic.
fantastic.
And from Novelis alone,
From Novelis.
that's great.
We currently have 15 interns in the plant, and we just hired 9 of the first cohort from the P-TECH program.
Right, so if you're not a part of the P-TECH program, you should, if you're part of that. And where's that, is it Oswego? It's Oswego, Tom, where's the job fair they have for the P-TECH kids? I believe it's up in Oswego.
We do a couple of them,
Yeah, and it's packed, and it's great, and it's celebratory, and I was trying to attend them and congratulate the kids for wanting to do it, but, you may get to the high school and decide you want to go to college, great, but I guess it's kind of like, they kind of make the trades cool again, make the trades, it's just as fine going to one of those as anything else. And more than anything, destigmatize people who are thinking about trying to path for a career. That's key.
And you can make a great living.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
absolutely. Pay is wonderful, the benefits.
Yes,
Peace going to Starbucks.
yeah, exactly. Exactly, although when I retire, that's my dream, is to have a Starbucks franchise. Just to give people coffee all day, they're smiling.
Yeah. It does make them smile.
Yes.
Is the price of coffee going up soon? I heard the beans or.
It's the best thing going, $5 for a cup of water, a little flavoring in it, Jesus.
Yeah. I forgot to mention to all the folks who are on the line that this is the great team at Novelis here sitting around the table. So, you know, I think hopefully you can see a lot of their names. So I don't know if you want to wrap it up, Randy. We're just about ending our time, and unless you want to say some last words.
Oh, good, Randy, good.
Well, and then I'll turn it over to John. Again, this is great. We want to do more of these now that we have more opportunity. And there's nothing like walking the facility and spending time out with our members. So it's always great to do this. And again, John, I want to thank you for diving into the issues and not just sort of tossing rhetoric around, because these things matter a lot. Both the cybersecurity infrastructure and many of the other issues. I know in your key position on Homeland Security, that puts you in the front and center on the things that matter a lot to the constituencies. And our constituency at MACNY, I think we even have a member or two from other parts of the state. You know, this is statewide important to manufacturers. So I can't thank you enough for doing this. And again, Novelis, great facility, great people, and thank you so much for your investment in our company. You're not just, you know, sort of doing what you need to do on a daily basis to put product out the door, but investing in the community, and that's a plunge.
Thanks, Randy, and thank you all for Novelis for being here, and thank you guys for your hard work you do every day and turning out a great product. And I want to especially thank Novelis because of them, I've got a truck that gets 26 miles an hour. So, because it's got the aluminum component parts and it's for life, you know. But you know, big picture, understand that the intersection has never been greater between Homeland Security and the economy. With what China's doing and supply chain issues, we can't have semiconductors. We didn't talk about that much. We can't have semiconductors have one country to stranglehold on that. We just can't in modern technology. We can't have one country have a stranglehold on any segment of our society unless they're good trade partners like Australia or Japan or Britain or Eastern or Western Europe. We've got to be more mindful of that. And so supply chain is very, very important. And having a secure supply chain, like 5G technology, we got to make sure it's not laden with spyware and malware and all that stuff. All those things you have to consider now, and that's where the intersection with Homeland Security and the economic security comes. And cybersecurity is part of that as well. And I used to, in the last administration, when I woke up every morning, two things worried me. Number one was, where's the next terrorist attack coming from? And number two, what did the president tweet? And one of those is no longer an issue for me, sort of. But I still worry every day about cyber attacks. But 5 years ago, my biggest fear by far was these ISIS-inspired catastrophic attacks in the United States. And now, what worries me more than anything is a catastrophic cyber attack. And it can screw up grids, it can screw up businesses, our physical infrastructure, and everything. And it's really important that we all stay vigilant with that as well. So we talked about a lot of things. If you guys have any follow-up questions offline, you can always contact us. Tom Hag is my assistant director here in the district, and he can help you. And many of you have my cell phone, just give me a call and we'll talk. But I want to thank you for all you do every day. As difficult as New York State makes it for all of you, with the way the choking regulations and the ridiculous tax policy, it's amazing that you guys are able to flourish. And for the life of me, I don't understand coming out of a pandemic, the thought in New York State behind taking 13 or 14 or $15 billion in pandemic money, which would basically make you almost whole, and certainly making local governments almost whole, if not more than whole, from the loss of tax revenue during the pandemic, and then putting a 20% spending increase on that, and then raising taxes. I don't understand it. I don't understand what they're thinking, but I'm always in awe of the businesses in New York State that survive, especially manufacturing, despite the atmosphere that they have. It's really a testament to MACNY and Randy's leadership and everyone else that we can continue to do this. So keep fighting a good fight. Keep the information coming to me so I know what to fight for you. And we'll keep talking. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Thank you so much. It's been great. Thanks, guys.
All right.